If your air conditioner shut off on you sometime this week and somebody already told you it needs a service call, I want you to hold off on that for about 15 minutes. There's a good chance nothing in that machine is actually broken. Somewhere inside your air handler, there's a little pan, and sitting in that pan is a float switch, and that switch has one job. When water starts backing up where it shouldn't be, it kills the whole system on purpose before that water finds your ceiling instead. Your AC isn't broken. Your drain is clogged. And I've watched homeowners get handed a bill anywhere from $145 to $245 for a fix that takes 15 minutes and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide that costs about $1. I've got 9 of these for you today, and I'll tell you right now, number 4 is the one that actually kills the service call cold. So stick with me. By the time we're done here, you're going to know exactly which pipe in your house is the one nobody ever shows you, what to pour in it and how much, how to tell if your drain pan is the kind you can hit with vinegar or the kind that vinegar will eat alive, what a condensate pump is and why it fails, and the exact order of operations for clearing a line that's already backed up, because doing it out of order just makes a bigger mess. I'll tell you what this stuff won't fix, so you're not standing there in July wondering why your peroxide didn't bring a dead compressor back to life. And I'll walk you through the real math, what a service call costs against what a bottle from the pharmacy costs, so you can see for yourself just how much of this business runs on people not knowing where one pipe is. My name is Frank. For a little over 30 years, I was the guy insurance companies sent out first, before the adjuster, before the real contractor, whenever a house had gotten hit by something bad. Burst pipe at 2 in the morning, a roof that gave up in a storm, a fire, a basement full of water. My job wasn't to make it pretty, it was to stop the bleeding before it got worse, and the real repair crew came in behind me. I've been in more mechanical closets, more attics, more crawl spaces under air handlers than I could ever count, and I can tell you, the condensate line on a home air conditioner is one of the most common reasons I'd get a call in the middle of summer that had nothing to do with weather at all. It was just a clogged pipe nobody knew existed. Here's the little injustice at the center of all this. Your HVAC technician knows everything I'm about to tell you, every bit of it. He's not a bad guy, he's just running a business, and he gets paid by the visit. A $145 call to clear a clogged drain line is, for him, 15 minutes of work and a nice invoice. For you, it's a bottle of hydrogen peroxide you probably already have under your bathroom sink. That's not a conspiracy. Nobody's out to get you. It's just that this information never makes its way from the guy doing the work to the guy paying for it, and I aim to close that gap today. So let's get into it, because once you see where this pipe is, you'll never look at your AC the same way again. Here's what most people get wrong, and it's the very first thing. Most folks never even know their condensate line exists until it fails, and by then they're standing in a puddle or staring at a dead thermostat calling whoever picks up the phone first. The mistake isn't a skill problem, it's that nobody ever showed them where the access point is or told them this needs attention once a month the same way you'd change a furnace filter. If you wait until the system shuts itself off, you've already let the cheap fix turn into an emergency call. So let's fix that starting today. Number 1 is the monthly habit that keeps this whole problem from ever showing up in the first place. Go find your indoor air handler. In most houses, that's going to be in the attic, a closet, the garage, or down in the basement. Coming off that unit, you're looking for a white PVC pipe. Follow it a few inches and you'll find a T-shaped fitting sticking up with a cap on top. That's called the access T, and somebody put it there on purpose specifically so a homeowner could pour something down it, take the cap off. Pour in 1 cup of the plain 3% hydrogen peroxide, the brown bottle you can grab at any pharmacy for about $1. You're going to hear it start fizzing right away. That's normal. That's exactly what you want. Let it sit 10 minutes, then flush it with warm water from a jug or a hose. Do that once a month through the whole cooling season, and I bet you'll go the entire summer without ever making that service call. Now here's why the fizzing matters, because that's the whole reason peroxide beats whatever else you were thinking about grabbing. Your air conditioner is pulling gallons of water a day out of the humidity in your house, and every drop of it runs out through that one skinny pipe. Inside that pipe, it's dark, it's damp, and it's warm, which is exactly the kind of environment algae, mold, and bacteria go looking for. They build up a slimy film along the inside wall, and that film acts like glue, grabbing dust and lint until eventually the whole pipe chokes shut. Hydrogen peroxide is just water with one extra oxygen atom hanging on that badly wants to break loose. When it touches that organic slime, that oxygen atom tears away and oxidizes whatever it's sitting on. That's your fizzing, right there. and what it's doing is lifting that film physically off the pipe wall so it flushes out instead of just dying and sitting there clogging things up anyway. After it does its job, it breaks down into plain water and oxygen, nothing left behind, no residue sitting in your ductwork. Number 2 is the drain pan itself, and this is where I need you to slow down because this next part matters more than anything else I'm going to tell you today. Underneath your evaporator coil, there's a pan that catches all that condensation. And that pan is actually where the slime starts before it ever makes its way into the pipe. Before you clean it, do this one test. Hold a magnet against it. If it sticks, you've got a galvanized steel pan. If it doesn't stick, and it's obviously not plastic, you're looking at aluminum. I've seen every kind out there. Here's the part that'll save you real money. Vinegar is an acid. Bleach is downright aggressive. Both of them will corrode a metal pan over time, and a corroded pan means a leak, and a leaking pan is a $600 to $1,200 replacement job. I've replaced enough of those myself to know it's not cheap and it's not fun because usually by the time you notice, there's water damage around it too. Hydrogen peroxide sits close to neutral. It's not an acid, it's not caustic, which makes it the one thing sitting in your medicine cabinet that'll kill the growth in that pan without eating through the metal. I'll be straight with you, almost every household tips video out there tells folks to just pour vinegar down the AC drain. Fine, if you've got a plastic pan. But if you've got an older metal one, you're slowly dissolving it every time you do that. Wipe the pan out with peroxide on a rag, work it into the corners, let it sit a few minutes, then wipe it dry. While you're down there, I want to warn you about the upsell because I watched plenty of technicians run this play. They'll offer you condensate pan tablets, little slow-dissolving pucks that sit in the pan, and release something to fight growth every time water runs over them. $5 to $15 a pack, and they do work, I won't lie to you about that. But they're doing the exact same job as the bottle you already own, and some of them are mildly corrosive if they're sitting right against a metal pan for weeks. If you're already dosing that pan once a month, you don't need to be buying those too. Number 3, the condensate pump. If your air handler sits below the level of the drain line, gravity's not going to do the work for you. You've got a little pump instead, usually a white box with a clear or gray reservoir, and its job is pushing that water up and out. That reservoir is a standing pool of water sitting in the dark, and it grows the exact same slime as everything else. When the float inside that pump gums up, it stops sensing the water level. The water keeps rising, and you end up with a leak that looks for all the world like a burst pipe. I've had homeowners call me convinced their pipes had failed when it was just a $245 to $445 pump that clogged. Unplug the pump first every single time before you touch it. Pour half a cup of peroxide into the reservoir, let it work for 15 minutes, flush it clean, then plug it back in. Now here's the one that actually cancels a service call that's already been scheduled, and you've got to do it in order. Number 4, clearing a line that's already blocked. If your system's already shut down, or you're seeing water somewhere it shouldn't be, prevention's behind you now. Here's the sequence I'd run every time. Start outside. Find where the drain line comes out of the house, usually a stub of white PVC near the outdoor unit or poking through the exterior wall. Take a wet-dry shop vac, seal it over that pipe end with your hand or a rag, and run it for 2 or 3 minutes. That's the step almost nobody does themselves, and it's exactly what you'd be paying $200 for somebody else to do. You're pulling the clog out from the downstream side, and what comes out of that pipe will probably surprise you. Once that's done, go back inside, open the access T, pour in your cup of peroxide, let it stand 10 minutes, then flush with warm water, and watch that it's running freely now. Check the pan while you're there. If there's still standing water sitting in it, sponge it out by hand because that float switch won't reset until the water level drops, and your system will just sit there dead while you're wondering what went wrong. On most units, once that pan's dry, the system resets itself, so give it a few minutes before you assume the fix didn't take. The reason order matters here is simple. If you pour anything into a line that's already fully blocked, you're just adding to the standing water. Clear the obstruction first, then treat the surface it was growing on. That's a $145 to $245 service call done for about $1. And the number underneath that is bigger because a line that stays blocked eventually overflows into a ceiling, and water damage and mold remediation on that kind of thing runs $600 to nearly $4,000. I've been the guy standing in that ceiling with a bucket. Trust me, you don't want to get there. If any of this is saving you a headache, go ahead and hit subscribe. I put one of these out every week, and it helps me keep making them when folks stick around. I've also put together a free home repair guide, checklists, tool lists, the fixes every homeowner ought to know before they ever call a pro. It's linked right in the description below if you want it. Now let's be honest about what this stuff can't do, because I'm not going to sell you on a miracle. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't fix air conditioners. It handles one specific category of trouble, biological growth in the wet parts of your system. It's not going to do a thing for a failed capacitor, a bad contactor, low refrigerant, a frozen coil, or a dead compressor. Refrigerant work especially, that's licensed territory for good reason, and I'm not a licensed HVAC technician. So anything involving refrigerant, high voltage electrical, or gas lines, that's a call to a real professional, no exceptions. What peroxide does handle is the slime. And in my experience, the slime is behind a surprising share of the calls that come in every summer because algae and mold are growing in that condensate line pretty much constantly from May through October. Number 5, window units and portable air conditioners. Same problem, smaller box. There's a base pan under the coil holding water by design, and on most units, a little slinger ring flings that water onto the condenser to help it cool. That water just sits there all season. Unplug it, slide the housing off, usually 4 to 6 screws, pour peroxide across the base pan, let it fizz 10 minutes, wipe it out, do the drain hole at the back while you're in there, because a blocked one is exactly why a unit starts dripping inside your house instead of outside where it belongs. While the housing's off, take a look at the aluminum fins on the indoor side. If they're furred up with gray dust, that's why the unit's running non-stop and barely cooling the room. Peroxide won't shift bonded dust, but a soft brush and a shop vac will, and that costs you nothing. That's also usually the fix for that musty smell that hits you every time the unit kicks on. Number 6, the dehumidifier bucket. If you're running one in a basement, you're already emptying that bucket constantly, and it builds up a film on the inside walls you can feel with your finger. Pour a cup of peroxide into the empty bucket, swirl it up the sides, leave it 15 minutes, rinse. Do the float too, that little hinged piece of plastic telling the machine the bucket's full. When that gets coated, the machine either shuts off too early or overflows on you. Same treatment for the drain hose if you're running one out to a floor drain. Number 7, humidifiers, and this one matters a bit more than the others. A humidifier takes standing water and turns it into a mist you're breathing directly. Whatever's growing in that tank ends up in the air of your room. That's different from a drain line where the water's just leaving the house. Empty it completely, fill the tank with a 50-50 mix of peroxide and water, let it sit 30 minutes, get into the wick housing and the mist nozzle, rinse it out thoroughly twice, and let it air dry before you refill it. If you've got a whole house humidifier mounted on the furnace, the water panel gets the same treatment, though most of those are really meant to be replaced once a year rather than cleaned forever. Number 8, your supply registers and the metal boot behind them. Pull one of your ceiling or floor registers off completely, not just the grill, the whole thing, and look down into that metal boot underneath. In a humid house, that metal gets condensation on it, and wherever you've got condensation and dust together, you get black spotting inside the duct boot. Spray it with peroxide until it's visibly wet, leave it 10 minutes, wipe it out with a rag on a stick, do the grill itself in the sink while you're at it. I'll say this plainly because it's where duct cleaning companies make their living. Spotting inside one register boot is a surface problem you can reach yourself. It is not proof your whole duct system needs a $900 cleaning, and if somebody's quoting you off a single photo of one register, that's a sales call, not a diagnosis. Number 9. That musty smell that comes back every single summer. In the trade, guys call it dirty sock syndrome, that smell that hits for the first minute or two after the system kicks on and then fades away. That's biological growth sitting on the evaporator coil. That coil's cold and wet every time the system runs, dust lands on it, and a film builds up in the fins. I'll be honest with you on the limits here. Peroxide handles the biological layer, but it won't dissolve the greasy, bonded dust that also builds up on a neglected coil that needs an actual foaming coil cleaner. And on plenty of systems, that coil sits behind a sealed access panel you shouldn't be opening yourself. If you can reach it safely with the power shut off at the breaker, spray peroxide across the fins, let it sit and drain down into the pan you already cleaned. If you can't reach it safely, just treat the pan and the line underneath, because that's what's feeding the growth in the first place. One safety rule, and I want you to actually hear this one. Never mix hydrogen peroxide with vinegar, not in the same bottle, not poured one right after the other into the same line. Combine the two and you get peracetic acid, and that's not some internet scare story, that's basic chemistry. Peracetic acid is corrosive and it'll irritate your eyes, your lungs, and your skin. If you want to use both for some reason, dose with peroxide first, let it stand 10 minutes, flush with water, and only then follow with vinegar and a final flush. That flush in between is your entire margin of safety, and never ever use bleach in any of this. Bleach breaks down the cement holding your PVC joints together and eats away at metal pans, which is exactly the repair you're trying to avoid in the first place. That's the thread running through every one of these 9. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't fix machines. It kills the living layer that makes a perfectly good machine look broken, in every part of your system that stays wet. Your technician knows all of this already. He just gets paid by the visit, and a $145 call for a clogged drain line is 15 minutes of work with a $1 bottle of peroxide. Let's run the real math on this because numbers stick better than promises. A single service call for a clogged condensate line runs you somewhere between $145 and $245. Do the monthly dose yourself, 6 months of cooling season, 6 cups of peroxide, and you've spent maybe $6 total, plus 15 minutes a month of your time. If you let it go and it backs up into a ceiling, now you're not talking about a service call anymore, you're talking $600 to almost $4,000 in water damage and mold work, the kind of job I used to get called out for at 2 in the morning. A condensate pump replacement runs $245 to $445, and half of the ones I pulled out over the years failed because the float just gummed up with slime that could have been rinsed clean for free. And that $900 duct cleaning quote, based off one dirty register boot, in my experience, that's rarely the actual problem. A rag on a stick and a bottle of peroxide handles it most of the time. So here's what I'd like you to do this weekend. Find your air handler and locate that access tee. Pour in a cup of peroxide and flush it. Pull the drain pan, do the magnet test, and clean it with peroxide, not vinegar, unless you know for certain it's plastic. If you've got a condensate pump, unplug it, dose the reservoir, flush it, plug it back in. If your system's already given you trouble, run the shop vac from the outside first, then treat the line from inside, in that order. Pull one register and check the boot behind it while you're at it. Write the date on your calendar so you remember to do the pan and the line again next month all season long. That's the whole job, and it costs you about $1.15. If you want the other half of this, I put together 9 more hydrogen peroxide fixes, this time the ones plumbers charge you $300 for, and number 4 in that one is a toilet fix almost nobody knows about. I'll leave that video up for you to find. And don't forget that free home repair guide I mentioned, checklists, tool lists, the stuff every homeowner should have on hand, it's linked in the description below. I'd love to know, what's the worst repair quote you've ever gotten for something that turned out to be this simple? Drop it in the comments. I read every one of them. Fixing it right isn't about being fancy. It's about taking care of what you've got and the people who depend on you.